Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending on when you are tuning in. This is a very, very important topic of really talking about life postpartum because for every baby that you bring into this world, that you adopt, that you foster, whatever your journey is, and I know some mamas out there have also lost their baby, and I don't wish that on any mom, but all of it, it changes you in so many ways, and it can be so isolating on so many levels. And so I'm just really genuinely thrilled to have somebody come on today. Her name is Chelsea. I've known her for a very, very long time, and she is very, very passionate about helping mothers in the early years, and not just you, but your partnership with your partner, and really becoming the best version of yourself postpartum. So let's dive in and bring her on here today. Is everything working? And it's going to be a really good conversation. I have no doubt at all. At all, at all. So good. And, I would love for you to give #live, #replay. Tell us in the chat if what your mama journey is, how many kids that you have, whether they're living here or angel babies, but would love to recognize you and notice you and bring you into the conversation. So hopefully our news channel can work here, because I would love to bring you on, Chelsea. Oh my goodness. Fingers crossed. I keep inviting her on, but the news channel is not. Okay, it says it's on. Chelsea is unable to come on. Okay, let's accept that again. Come on. Come on, IG. I believe in you. I believe in you.
I think we did it.
I think we did too. Hi, friend. What is up? You're so adorable. I love your colors.
Oh, thank you. This is my go-to. It's too cold outside, but I'm not gonna deal with a jacket.
Yes, well, it's very like boho chic, and like the flowers behind you, like there's a whole vibe going on, and I'm like the lilac girl. So
Okay.
we've got
But
we've
as
got
I
all
was
of it.
watching, I was like, oh, my daughter was obsessed with purple, and so I'm just thinking of how much she would love this whole ensemble.
I know, I love it. Well, welcome to the show. For those that don't know you, give us a little backstory, if you will, of why you're doing what you're doing now, because you're very, very passionate about it, and it's changing a lot of lives. And so I would love for you to share a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think Nellie, you might know some of this. I was a teacher. I was pregnant with my first baby, and I wanted another option than going back to the classroom, which would have been just really difficult for me personally. And so I learned about the online world via Beachbody way back in the day, and then came to the point where I was connecting with a lot of moms, but I saw this big gap. Like, people were trying to find themselves again after having a baby. People were struggling with just their whole body image and how they felt about themselves and how they connected with themselves, and then therefore how they connected with their partners. And I realized there's a lot of things we do talk about in this season, but that just wasn't being discussed. And there was no place, where I felt safe when I was a first time mom to really be like, oh, my partner and I have very different sex drives right now, and this is causing a riff. Or I look in the mirror and I just don't feel connected to myself. I don't know, how do I go out and make friends? Because in my own head, like, who am I at this point? So that's really where I knew that there was a gap that I could have used, and I wanted to become that person. So I feel like even right now I'm in this little bit of a transition from I kind of started this as a peer to a lot of people when I was a new mom, and now I'm trying to take on the role of like the big sister that everyone needs to have, because
Oh, I
I'm
love that.
not in that peer season anymore.
I love that, but you can give them so much hope and perspective now that you've been through like the early years, because it is going from one baby to two babies. I was not prepared. Like, can you please create a master class if you don't already have one? Because I did not know what I was going to get myself into. And I'm sure you don't know until you're in it, but like, I would have loved somebody to sit me down and be like, girl, let me tell you everything.
Yeah.
So the the journey is beautiful, amazing, challenging, all of the things.
All of the things.
And so I would love to talk about the partnership, because I know that's been something that you've been very open about. And I think it's a lot of women struggle with the partnership just as a human being, like connecting to their partner. And equally, in my world, a lot of significant others don't get why are you putting yourself online, like why, like can you really make money? So there's so many layers here of like they don't feel connected to their partner emotionally, and then when like the woman wants to go on the online space and like connect with other women and build an online business, then there can like I just see a trend where there's even more friction. I don't know if you've seen that trend as well.
I hear what you're saying. And I do have a couple of clients who are, similarly building businesses as new moms. And so I see this perspective. And I think I harp on communication. Oh,
You're
sorry.
okay.
Okay. It told me I was frozen.
Oh,
So,
okay. I heard communication. Can you
yeah,
say that
okay.
again?
So harping on communication, which I think is this kind of 3-step process. So for moms who are starting businesses or who are working in their business, I think there's a huge piece of this like purpose and identity and contributing to the world outside of being a mom. I think there's a lot of misconception about fulfillment and needing to choose one bucket that is our fulfillment. Like, we are complex beings. And so I think a lot of that starts with knowing what she is getting out of her business or what she is looking for. It's that fulfillment or a connection or purpose or contribution, or maybe it's a need that the family has. But sometimes if we're not confident in that in ourselves, we have a really hard time communicating that to our partners. So I think the way that we position what we're doing, why are we taking 2 hours in the evening to work on a business? Why are we asking for more help around the house so that we can be plugging into something that is really passionate for us? We have to know that in ourselves and have the words to communicate that, or else partners can get really defensive or confused. And so I think, yeah, it's know yourself and know how to communicate that in a way that you and your partner can have a conversation without defensiveness on both sides.
I love that. So it's like really like enrolling them in the vision of why you want to do this. And like I find that a lot of significant others are like questioning the money piece.
Okay.
And so, I think it does come down to communication. Like, because there's so many levels to like you're taking time away from our family, and it's not always immediate financial return, because that's the world that we live in, right? You go to a job, you get a paycheck on, every other Friday, for example. The online space is a little bit different. It does take time. Like, you've built up your brand for a very long time. And so I think it's like getting your partner on board with that. To your point, it comes down to communication. So like, what are some communication tips that you have found to be really effective with you and your clients?
Yeah. So I think I love using sentence starters. So knowing, I just talked about knowing a little bit more about your why. So because blank, I need blank. Just a simple way to present information rooted in the value and the why, and not just like, I need you to do bedtime, or I need you to do Saturday mornings. I think we have to stay connected to that.
Yep.
I think, another thing is just consistent communication when possible, not just in the moment. So I like to teach people, can you sit down on Sunday nights and have a weekly business meeting where you're proactively talking about what's going to be out of schedule or what you need from one another, so that things aren't surprising or, we feel desperate when we're asking for that.
Yes.
So those are two pieces that I use no matter, what we're advocating for or trying to make room for.
Well, I think we are so afraid at times to ask for help from like the person that loves us the most. And a lot of that is programming for sure, because, deep down they want you to be happy. And it does take us speaking up for ourselves. And I think that that's been like huge in my own marriage of like, it's not my partner's job to know everything that I need or everything that I want.
Totally.
Like, yeah. And that changed the game, where I was my own advocate and said, this is what I really desire. This is what I really need. What about you? And like co-creating together versus just like assuming or, rolling my eyes that like, oh, you walked past the dishes and you don't see, you didn't like think to like put them in the dishwasher type of thing. So it's like so much communication is nonverbal, and equally we get to do our part. That's like one of my favorite sayings. Like, we get to do our part. So like, what have you seen that we haven't discussed yet that are like big boulders that you work with your clients on that other women could be like, oh, I haven't thought about that, or I could work on that? Like, what things have you seen, or what things are you passionate about? Like, I would love to open it up to you and hear your brain.
Yeah. Well, something that similarly to what you just shared, something that really changed my life and that I use with a lot of people is looking at the story you're telling yourself about something. And I walk my clients sometimes on our live sessions through saying, okay, when this happened, the story I'm telling myself is blank. And sometimes that resonates, and sometimes the partner is like, what? Like, that is not in no way my perception or my experience, or that's not, how I intended for that to feel. And so I think, man, especially in those early days, if you're on maternity leave or you're a stay-at-home parent or a work-from-home parent, you have so much time to ruminate in your head and create stories.
Yes.
And so, the thing is, like, can you get aware of when you're telling yourself a story? Like, okay, girlfriend, if you need something entertaining, that's fine, but you have to recognize I'm telling myself a story. I'm filling in gaps that aren't mine to fill in. I'm making assumptions that aren't helpful here. So I like to make that playful when possible for people. It's something I think we all do, but sometimes, our partner gets home and we are upset with them for an entire day of things they weren't even there for.
Yeah. I've even found that to be true with like friends, where like I start like, this is like past Nelly, like I would like like to your point, ruminate all of these like fake scenarios in my head, and then I would like go to my friend and be like, all right, but like to your point, the story that I'm telling myself is that you hate me and I did something wrong, and they're like, what? Like, not at all. And it's like, I've taken it on a different perspective of my actions and energy and thoughts and beliefs are my responsibility. And so for so long, I was just taking on everyone else's worries and, opinions of me, or pretend opinions, and like just not like allowing them to have their own experience, like trusting that people will speak up if they want to speak up. Like, like it's, I talk a lot about emotional freedom, because we worry so much, we overthink so much, we stress so much, but then we say we have no time to do the things we love to do. And it's like,
right.
what if we
Using
just like
a lot of that, living in a false world.
Yeah, and if we just put that down, even for a day, to see like what that feels like.
Yeah.
You know, we're all connected in the home. Like, so when we just like focus on us, I really do believe you can transform relationships one-sided. Like it, you know, a happy mom is everything.
Yeah.
And that is our responsibility. And so what have you found to help outside of communication to go from like struggling postpartum to thriving?
Well, I think that one thing is getting out of places where you're feeling comparison. I think that is like literally the biggest enemy to coming home to yourself and like really finding yourself again. And so that, you know, like my time on social media has drastically decreased, and I love that. I need that because I can see when there's too much comparison. And, you know, I think 7 years ago when I had my son and, you know, we were first seeing motherhood on social media, it was a lot more staged. And I think in a lot of ways we're in a better place where there is more authenticity, but it's still even curated, you know, authenticity. And so I think we really have to keep that in mind. I think, you know, questioning things that we see at surface level. So even for me, a big revelation as a business owner was I realized that sometimes like your income and your revenue are very different. And so I would compare myself to people who are saying they're generating this much money in their business, and then come to find out, which like totally fine. There's so many different strategies, but maybe 80% of that was going back into marketing or, you know, paying other people to be part of their business. There's no right or wrong way, I don't think, to build a business and be a mom and go through the chaos that is. But I can't, you know, compare my slice of the pie to someone else's, and I don't even know what that pie is made of.
Yeah, I agree.
Those were two very, very big things.
Yes. And it's so huge. I also have curated my feed because like when you're on social, it should feel good. And like it's almost like your home. You get to invite people into your home, and you also get to say, okay, it's time for you to go. Maybe you can come back later. But it's like, you know, just again that empowerment of we have so much power. Like on social, we have so much power in our minds. We have so much power in our relationship with our partner. And it's like the more we own that, everything starts to change. And you know, I think,
I just, that makes me think of, you know, the other thing I find myself talking to moms a lot about is control. And we can feel like so much is out of our control. And like you say, we actually have a lot of opportunities and options and decisions that we get to make. There is a lot that's in our control, and that is empowering. And there are some things that are out of our control that we have to say, you know, I'm going to figure out how to flow through that. But I think oftentimes we don't know the difference between those, and we kind of operate out of a lot of more of anxiety or fear when we could be feeling that empowerment from the control we do have.
Agreed. And when you're in survival mode, everything feels different. You make different decisions, but the only way to get out of survival mode is through it, like to work on it step by step by step. So it may be as small as like, today I'm going to trust myself that I want to go get coffee, so I'm going to go get coffee, right? Like, or you have this idea to, you know, make a video on social media. Like, it's the trusting yourself is, I think, the most important thing, because that spills over to all the areas, but it may not feel safe in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think we attach a lot of judgment to those things that we do, how they turn out, you know, whether they get engagement or not. The same thing with parenting. Like I could give similar examples of wanting to get the praise and support from family that maybe they don't actually agree with our decisions, or, we often judge ourselves based on other people's reaction to what we're doing. And I think in motherhood and in business, kind of detaching yourselves from results and attaching yourself more to your present experience and what you get to learn and grow and enjoy through that feels a lot more fun.
Yes, yes. Do you have any practical strategies around that? Because like logically, it's like, of course, like detachment, absolutely. Like, I always think about it like a plug in the wall, like your vacuum, and you pull it out, and then you can't vacuum anymore. Like what have you found to be like helpful, practical things?
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like a reminder when something doesn't go the way that we anticipate, and this is, something I use personally, something I tell my clients to use, is to just figure out like, oh, well, what information did I gather from that? Cool. I got information. Like it makes it more neutral when it's not about your worth or your own value, but you kind of make things more neutral and just, what did I learn from that? What did I pull from that? What piece of information do I have now that I didn't have a day ago?
And that's so valuable. Like you'll never wonder what if. And that's the big gift. Like you'll never wonder what if, no matter what it is. And like I find with my clients, you'll probably smile at this. I ask back, well, what were you expecting? And they go, I don't know. And it's like, then we really can't measure it, right? Because we didn't have, like, if you launched a product and you were desiring, 10 initial sales, now we have a benchmark. And we can measure, okay, based on our launch strategy, did we reach the goal?
Right.
But I find a lot of times people aren't necessarily putting that benchmark in place. And again, I think it is important to still keep it neutral because we may not get 10 initial sales. But at least we have a benchmark that to take your strategy of like learning. Did we get 5 sales? Okay. What did we learn? Now let's tweak, modify, rinse, and repeat. So I think it's like deciding what the desire is first. Like even going into a conversation with your partner, I desire to have a neutral, loving conversation with the hope of, being able to go to Panera every Sunday for 2 hours and work my business. Like that's the desired outcome. And now you're going in with like really good neutral energy, but you're clear on what you desire,
Yeah. I think we struggle to get clear because we have so many inputs, so many places to get other information. So, but you're right. Like, and this is what I do with relationships. Without a roadmap and without that clarity, you're going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall and grabbing for straws randomly. And if you are just doing that, you're going to be exhausted. You're going to be overwhelmed, and nothing's ever going to feel good enough.
I agree. Do you remember when you ran your relationship challenge? It was a long time ago. I think it was in COVID.
It was during COVID.
Okay. It was so good. Like, you should do that again.
Okay, I need to.
Yeah, it was so good. It was so simple. It was so effective. And I like going back to the clarity piece. I think women, especially when you're in the thick of postpartum, it is hard to make decisions. So like the relationship challenge specifically, you gave that simple roadmap. And it was like, I remember looking at the list and being like, okay, Chelsea's telling me to do this. And I loved the simplicity of it. And, sometimes you don't even know that you're in the postpartum fog, the thickness, anxiety, depression. And that was me, multiple times during my journey. You don't know. And so like just having something like that where you can just like, it's just something where you can like grab it and run with it. It's huge. So do more of that.
Okay, that's exciting for me.
Or at least think about it. But it's just, I think it's
isn't that funny? Because when you say that, Nellie, I'm like, at first I was kind of embarrassed because those things are so simple, right? Like anyone, I think this is where service-based business is really important. Like anyone could go on the internet and Google 15 ways to connect with my partner. But there's just something about someone doing the legwork for you and making it easy. But as a business owner, I'm often like, oh no, that's too simple. People will think it's dumb if I do that. But
Well,
people want to
yes.
understand.
And like what I want to reflect back to you is you've created your own transformation. So yes, could I or somebody else go on Google and find that for sure. But like as women, we're such energetic, emotional beings. So when I spent that money with you, it wasn't just to get, you know, all the ideas. I was then energetically connected to you. And it's that osmosis energy where it's like, you know, Chelsea has, you know, even in the thick of motherhood, been able to really deeply, passionately connect with herself and her partner. I desire that. And I don't want to wait until our kids are older and grown up, because then it's like sometimes it's too late.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that that's important too, because a lot like you, people can go on YouTube and find how to do everything that we help them do. But again, it's that plugging in. So yes, like detaching from things that don't serve us and then plug in to what does serve you. And it's in your brand, postpartum together. Like it says it all. Like plug in and receive the support. It's not meant to be painful and hard. You know, there's the challenges, there's the highs and the lows, but it doesn't have to be harder than it needs to be or is. And that's, you know, I think that's what your brand is all about.
Yeah. Thanks. I liked that synopsis.
Yeah. I remember the first time we met, you had actually like the length of hair that I have now.
Yeah. Hey, I can place the years.
I can too. And you know, I think the world is so beautiful because, you know, we had like similar beginnings of our journey. And it's just interesting how the universe works. Like, here, let me just place you in the same room, connect, stay connected, you know, throughout all the years. And I think, you know, nothing's ever forced. And I think that that's beautiful and amazing. And so for those that don't know, how can they work with you? How can they get connected with you? Like, tell us all the things.
Well, all my internet things are postpartum together. So anywhere that you like to hang out on the internet. And I mostly do one-on-one coaching. So I work with expecting moms through, honestly, I say that postpartum, like you are forever a changed person. And so I have clients that are brand new moms. I have clients that are 5-10 years into motherhood. Really a lot of that, like we get to be born in a new way and find yourself and find your best experience for life as an individual. And then I work with couples. So I do, I meet with them individually, and then I meet with them together on that same topic and really facilitate how they come together on the things that they talked about in our individual sessions. So I really help to facilitate some of those misunderstandings or communication patterns. We can dissect, you know, an argument that keeps coming up. And I do that in the collective when, especially when the men are willing and excited to show up, and they're a lot of fun.
I love that, because men and or your partner are going through their own stuff, like, and they're not typically are not as vocal. So it's like, we think that it's just us, but like they're also experiencing their own stuff.
Yep.
And so then that's when like all the chaos happens. So what do you find that people come to you for the most for? Like, what's the desired outcome?
To fight less is usually like the biggest transformation. And, you know, that comes a lot from understanding yourself, understanding how you're communicating with each other, how you're misunderstanding each other, and a lot of that like personal value and confidence work, because that is what you bring to the table with your partner. So helping people, you know, I don't ever say like to stop fighting, because I think we can fight healthily and we can disagree in very healthy ways, but learning the healthy ways to do that so that they're, usually it's people who say, I don't want to be fighting in front of my kids. So we figure out how to have better communication.
Those productive conversations.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that so much. It's so good. So I always love to end interviews with like, all right, there's a mom in survival, give her your best tip. So like as she's ending this interview, she can like take it and run with it.
Oh man, there's so many things, many things.
No. The thing that has helped you, like what's your tried and true go-to?
Yeah. It sounds so plain, but it's really like not just asking for help, accepting help. And, letting people, it's a vulnerable thing to accept help. And so we often don't do it. And accepting help is not just for you, it's for other people to have that level of connection with you and take care of you.
I love that. So we get to go seek help today is what I hear. Mm-hmm. Okay. I love it. Well, you're amazing. Connect with Chelsea and say hi. And if they want to reach out to you on one-on-one services, do they just DM you?
Okay. Yep. Instagram DMs are great.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, thanks for hanging out with me today, friend. So good to see your face.
You too.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.